Welcome back. Today I'm going to test out the Xeon E3-1280v2, an old processor from Intel's Xeon lineup, to see how well it performs in modern games in 2024. This chip was originally built for servers and workstations. I personally get this CPU from old Dell Precision T1650, but with all that, can it still hold up in the gaming world today? And should you grab one for low as $30? Well, firstly, let's see specifications of this, I guess now, budget server CPU. Released back in 2012 with 4 cores and 8 threads, it's pretty irresistible option for budget gamers. This Xeon was based on old LJ1155 socket, and with upgraded Ivy Bridge architecture, processor offered 3.6 GHz for base clock, and same as previously reviewed 4930K, this Xeon's turbo frequency was 4 GHz for single core only. But if you wanted to synchronize boost across all cores, then 1280v2 boosted to 3.7 GHz. And upgrade from older Xeons was process node of 22 nanometers and a whopping 69 Watt TDP. Oh, and I didn't know what to expect from this Xeon, so I put 16 gigs of DDR3 RAM and fabricated GTX 1080 Ti together with riser. Why fabricated? Well, because Dell motherboards have these awesome PCIe slot clips that interferes with graphics card. Thanks Dell for making my life a little bit complicated. Plus thanks for illogical 5-pin connector for CPU cooler, so I couldn't water cool it. Again, thanks Dell, keep it up. But now, let's jump into specifically chosen 6 games for this CPU. Let's start with something less GPU demanding, but super popular, Counter-Strike 2. Known for its fast-paced action, CS relies heavily on CPU performance, so it's a great test for this Xeon E3-1280v2. But for my surprise, Xeon could run CS2 with playable framerate only in low graphical preset at 1080p. And with that, Xeon averaged 86.6 FPS, with minimum of 42.8 FPS and maximum of 132.7 frames per second. CS was playable, but not ideal, because framerate wasn't stable and dropped basically every time I shot at enemy. Maybe in CSGO the CPU would be a solid option, but not in CS2. Next up I choose to run Hitman 2, Silent Assassin. Also, game that's more CPU intensive than you might expect. Xeon ran Hitman 2 at 1080p in low settings in DirectX 12 mode, basically in lowest settings possible. And Hitman 2 CPU's average framerate was 45.9, minimum was 10.9 FPS and maximum was 79.8 frames per second. I'd say tragic experience. I expected a lot more FPS from 8 threads, but of course I need to understand that this CPU was meant for servers, not games. Now let's push the Xeon E3-1280v2 a little harder with GTA 5. Though it's an older game, it's still demanding, especially when driving fast through the city. And GTA 5 run in 1080p with normal settings, but at least in DirectX 11. Thank God, Xeon handled GTA 5 fairly well, with an average frame rate of 73.1 FPS, minimum just 53.3 and maximum of 102.3 frames per second. For me, there was no major stuttering, but you might see some drops during explosive action scenes. Otherwise, it was playable experience. And of course, how could I test CPU without running Shadow of the Tomb Raider at 1080p in lowest preset in DirectX 12 mode? Average Xeon get 32 frames per second, minimum was 2.8 FPS, where maximum was 79.9 FPS. And with these results, my hopes was gone for this Xeon. Guys, it's 4 cores and 8 threads. Back in the day, this core count was only for high-tier gaming computers. Okay, let's move on to Fortnite, a battle royale game that's both CPU and GPU intensive. Can Xeon manage a consistent framerate here? Well, short answer is kinda. Xeon ran Fortnite at 1080p performance preset. Average frame rate was 71.1 FPS, minimum was 4.5 frames per second, but maximum was 101.6 FPS. Well, here frame rate was playable, at least for most of the time, because when FPS dropped, it dropped hard. I saw drops even to 3 FPS, but most FPS drops was only when dropping out of the bus or in highly populated areas. I will say that Fortnite is playable as long as you like to play in lowest possible settings. And for final game, I wanted to test a bit different game, Insurgency Sandstorm, with low to medium settings at 1080p and FXAA turned on. and Xeon delivered average frame rate around 84.4 FPS, minimum was 57.6 FPS, and maximum was 137.5 FPS. And in this game, I thought Xeon will struggle, but matter of fact, game was very playable. But of course, some stuttering occurred during large battles and dense areas of the map, but otherwise I enjoyed the game, without thinking about frame rate. And of course, I run 3DMark's CPU profile benchmark for maximum CPU threads, and Xeon scored 1943 points. But for last test, I run Cinebench R23, and Xeon in multi-core test scored 3513 points. And in single-core test, Xeon's score was 718 points. Nothing surprising in multi-core test. But in single core, Xeon E3-1280v2 scored a good chunk more than i7 4930K. Impressive how server CPUs are optimized more for single core performance and thread count, rather than high frequency across all cores. So, what did we learn today? That the Xeon E3-1280v2 may not be the newest CPU on the market, and it might not even be good in modern titles. But as server CPU, it's in very good price range for single core performance, and with low TDP that you can be sure it will not overheat even with stock cooler. But can I recommend this CPU for budget gamers? Well, no. I will suggest you to stay away from server CPUs if you plan to use it for gaming. But if you are a content creator, video editor, or just most of the time use creative apps like CAD or programs from Adobe, then it's not bad processor. But still, you can find better Xeon with more cores for the same price or close to the price of this Xeon. But for me, well, I might have use for this Xeon specifically, but that's for another video. And subscribe if you don't want to miss out. But now, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below if you'd like to see more budget CPUs in action. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.